has got a balustrade made of swords. And of course, the council had some issues with that, having a house with, I don't know, 60 swords.
But they're not, they're prop swords, right?
No, they're real swords.
What the fuck?
Kia ora, I'm Gabby MAFFEY. I'm an architecture graduate from Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland, and I have got a leaky flat and an asthma problem. I would have to say that the cost of living in cold, damp houses is quite a medieval reality for this modern century. My walls are damp, my coat is musty, and I want to see some more options, please.
On the outskirts of Christchurch, New Zealand's second largest city, a medieval castle is about to be built, right here, on this very knoll.
This is no ordinary home. In fact, it's a
Castle, equipped with a moat, a drawbridge, solar panels, thermal storage and a computer control system. And the owners are Debbie, interior and landscape designer, and Dennis, he's the technical man, the engineer.
When you think of a castle, you think of something like out of a movie. The highest room and the tallest tower, knights on steeds protecting kingdoms from attack. You think of quests, crests, ladies, lords, servants, torture. Castles don't make you think of solar panels and triple glazed windows, but this one does. Chapman Castle is a sight for sore lungs. This solar castle sits on a big hill in Taitapu or Tautahi, Christchurch. It's warm and it's dry, and it's an inventive response to a universal problem. How can we heat our homes using renewable energy, but how can we keep the temperature of these homes consistent throughout the year? So, pick up your mead and your sword and your chainmail, and let's go on a quest to Chapman Castle.
Nice,
From mine.
nice jacket.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Powder
Like the
blue.
whole thing.
It totally looked like a used car salesman, which I thought was kind of the
Yeah,
look.
and
That's
weird.
what I was going for.
More sort of Irene Cara flash dance out of 80s video.
Okay, I'm going to look that
Which
up
is
because
cool.
I don't know what that
What's
means.
it? You dig it.
All right. Me, I dig it
Love
then.
it. Dug it. You love it. You love it.
I have dug it. I have.
It's been officially dug.
I want, how can I say it, normal houses or normal people to have a piece of that movie art.
Yeah.
So I bring my guys who are, a lot of them are ex-movie, and we theme their place like we'd be doing a movie set. Exterior-wise, we designed and built individual gargoyles. So a gargoyle is designed to take the water off a roof and also ward evil spirits. Two different things, yeah? They all have different headgear, so they have different horns. Some have horns, some have antlers, some have different teeth. They have different head positions. Interior-wise, we did all sorts of stuff, everything from tapestries, these old tapestries that open up electronically when the heat gets to a certain point, to casting my head in the fireplace at the other end there, to the Michelangelo type frieze on the ceilings, to even the balustrade full of swords. Actually, when I do see it, it's freaky, it's not right. It's not right to see your own head stuck in a bit of water. And everything was cool until they started wrapping my head like a mummy. So I couldn't breathe through my nose. All I could do was breathe. I couldn't see. I could only breathe out through a straw. And it went all, I could still hear them, and it went quiet because they thought, shit, I don't think that would be much fun.
How long were you having to be like that?
20 minutes. So, pretty special.
And do you imagine a world where everyone has a kind of theme or a bit of a gimmick to their build?
That's a special one because it's a bit like a suit. You can wear a bright red suit or a soft blue one.
Yeah, a gentle powder blue.
That's it, and it will be cool for 6 months, and then it might not be. So you've got to be very careful.
Longevity is important.
So you've got to be careful that when theming something, It's tough and strong enough and classy enough to last the distance.
This is usually where people stop. Amazing, it's a house that looks like a castle. Let's take some photos and move on. But as I said before, this castle is more than just its theme. It's more than just what it looks like. It's not just a castle. This building is an invention. Thank you. So I've got
I don't get a chance to clap. Oh, I see.
Do you want you go ahead, Dennis?
You can clap if you want. How many kids do you have?
3, 4.
4. So
Came in, there was a guy in a white shirt, a couple of pens, shorts and jandals.
And he was a bit of a myth, and we'd heard about him, you know, just through the art world, where he was trying to build a great go-kart track at his house, and the council had said no, and some of my other artists that had worked with me had painted his climbing wall in his house. You know, not many people have a climbing wall.
Dennis is an ideas man. He'd wake up in the middle of the night and he'd write them down, and then he'd call me at 8 o'clock the next day, and it'd be, Matt, I've had a couple of ideas. What do you reckon? And we'd go through them, and 9 of the 10 ideas would be, well, Dennis, this is why we can't do this is what won't be allowed. But 1 in 10 would be, why have people not thought of this? Why are we not doing this?
You guys wouldn't know what that is, would you?
Nope.
It's a slide rule.
Yeah.
That was our bloody calculator, and that's what I used at Polytech. And at the end of Polytech, I got one of these. These are gold. This here was a wheelchair electric charger. So it was designed in about, I don't know, 75, 78 to go on a wheelchair. And then Telecom come along and said, oh, we want a particular thing. So I took what was in there and basically put it in here. So that's what's in here. Put it in here, sent it off to them as a prototype. And hey presto, a day before Christmas we got an order for 1,000 of them.
Yes, well, we go back to secondary school. His family moved up from Dunedin. He was always building stuff like radio-controlled planes and boats and cars and things like that.
My family was pretty poor and I couldn't afford to go to university, so I went to Polytech and got a job as an apprentice at Tate's.
It was the largest electronics manufacturer probably in New Zealand in those days.
And then towards the end of Tate, I was starting to design product for a friend of mine called Consumer Electrical. For a number of reasons, I decided to leave Tate's, and I designed stuff and they would make it. And what ultimately happened is we merged the 2 companies and got in some other investors, and at that stage we thought of switch tech. It was, switch mode technology, because that's what we're into in those days. So we called it switch tech. We spelled it wrong because I can't spell anyway.
Dennis and I effectively made ourselves redundant by selling the business along with a lot of the other shareholders. And so, yeah, he's started another one and I joined him as usual. Sometimes you're in the right place at the right time with the right technology. If we had been a couple of years earlier, we would have failed. A couple of years later, we would have missed the opportunity. No, I'm just reminding him of all the things, because Pete's like me. He's done so many bloody things in his life that he's forgotten where half of them fit. And yeah, put your teeth in and sit down, dear.
I can't, they're upstairs. No, but I'm not.
Yeah, I consider Dennis to be a little bit of a mentor in the way that he considers design and he interacts with people. He's a big kid and he's a playful person, and he's prepared to employ the right people to help guide him. So he's not so proud to say it's only his way.
Debbie's absolutely, she's quite silent, but good eye for detail. Absolutely lovely lady, keeps Dennis on track. Might give him a kick in the shins potentially if he needed to just settle down a little touch. No, she's been lovely. She's been fantastic through the entire build.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, and there was a hell of a lot of camaraderie between the guys. They really enjoyed it.
Well, so much so that they're your knights now.
Yeah, I did that. We had, when we finished the building, I decided we'd have a big function for all of the contractors that helped build it. And everybody dressed up in medieval costume. It was hilarious.
It was really good.
And the entire valley of Taitapu was filled with fog, which is quite befitting a medieval night. And I remember coming up the hill in our car with my wife and seeing the castle with its medieval torches and lanterns and the gargoyles.
There was a group of us that got knighted in the castle for our work from Dennis, which was pretty special.
I still treasure my sword, and it's engraved with my own initials, and it's in my office at home. It reminds me of the time of Dennis and the project, so yeah, it's special.
Do your clients ever ask you about why you got a sword in your office?
The odd one has actually, yeah, and I just say just to keep them paying the bills.
So if I do a really good job, do you think I'll become a knight?
You never know.
What was your overall vision for this house, and what did you have on the checklist? What did it have to have?
I wanted to lower the power bills. The previous house had lots of insulation, no thermal mass, so you opened the front door to say goodbye to your friends and family, and you had to put the heater back on.
Most people don't have time to think about energy efficiency. They're working with what they've got, and they're trying to work enough to afford their power bill each month.
I'll just do it really rudely. Dennis will look at this and go, I can't believe you explained it like that. The concept of the castle in its really basic form is really simple. Solar panels on the roof, which are collecting the sun's energy. The solar panels feed a battery. The battery then will feed the lighting into the castle. It also, behind the castle, we've captured the hot air that's in behind the solar panels, and that hot air is pushed down through the castle wall and pushed out in through vents, which heats the room.
Thermal mass is the ability to absorb, store and retain heat. Concrete is an epic thermal mass. Think of concrete like the sponge and the warmth of the sun like this cup of water. As you can see, concrete is able to absorb the warmth from the sun spectacularly. However, it also is able to lose the heat of the sun pretty quickly as well. That's why concrete needs to be insulated, so that the heat that it absorbs is retained.
And because we've got our thermal envelope on the exterior, which is that sort of your pink line on the outside, the warmth that's in that concrete wall can't radiate out, it has to radiate back into the room. Yep. So that's what gives it the consistency of temperature within the building.
It's so simple.
We're more interested in the functionality of space rather than the form.
The function being that this is a warm, dry home that uses natural energy. This is function over form, which is quite a modern idea. At least it's more modern than medieval architecture.
A typical kind of contemporary building would probably leave the tilt panels bare. Were you not tempted to go for a more modern approach, Debbie?
Well, you lose your thermal mass. You know, if your concrete's exposed to the outside air, then the loss of heat just travels straight through. So you need the insulation on the outside.
So it wasn't just an aesthetic thing, it was a functional thing as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Dennis and Debbie took great big hunks of concrete thermal mass and then essentially just slapped on all the other bits that make it look like a medieval castle.
The ability to clip stuff onto a tilt slab and make it look better than, make it look, add some fixtures that make it look Art Deco, or make it look Renaissance-y, or make it look whatever. And I understand that the architect's philosophy is to let it be, and let it be concrete, and let it breathe, and let it gather moisture or whatever, but that's all cool. But it comes to a point where another square building is just another square building, and you can talk about it all you want. Ask a child or a teenager or an adult what they think that building is, and they'll just say it's a big square building.
We're at the Sign of the Tākehē. This is one of a few buildings that really inspired the interiors of Dennis and Debbie's castle. Sign of the Tākehē celebrates craft in every bit of stone, wood and detail. Sign of the Tākehē was built during the Great Depression, which meant that materials were in short supply. This meant that, like Dennis and Debbie's castle, They needed a lot of ingenuity to get the imagination through to the invention. Cody beams were salvaged from old bridges. Historical freezers were made from packing cases. Artists painted on petrol cans, butter boxes and tea chests, whatever was available. The people involved in this building were big fans of craftsmanship, believing that human effort created outcomes of dignity and unique character, something that you might not get from a product that was more mass-produced. A lot of people become really important to a handcrafted home.
But there's all the beams in the lounge and all of the wood panelling in the hall and then the kitchen area, which is all sort of wood panel type look doors. We've got a cousin who used to be in the Navy, who for a part-time thing, he was an expert in New Zealand in rope work. So he made all the ropes and spliced them and that sort of thing.
Oh, 4-poster bed. I just really, really wanted one. And fortunately, there's still people in Christchurch that were able to make it. Like Dad Guest made it and brought it up here in pieces and then assembled it in the room. So when we sell, the bed's staying because it'd be too hard to get it apart.
It's amazing watching the stonemason put these together, and they've got winches and trying to get them in place. It was fun to watch.
How long did that take?
About 2 years to put the sandstone on.
And these handmade processes are very labour-intensive, costly, and have room for human error. Those aren't really in keeping with Dennis and Debbie's key philosophy, function over anything else. If it was just about function, why take 2 years to put stone on the outside of a building? Wouldn't it make more sense just to clad it in something cheaper? So Dennis can say it's about function, but I think it's about fun. This castle is what happens when a team of specialists get to have fun and figure it out. People who crack into it, people who appreciate the effort that goes into designing something new.
John Aldridge would come up with what it should look like, and because of his studies in history, he did a lot of recording of castles and things when he was overseas, and so he would tell Dennis what it should look like, whether it should be a Gothic arch or a whatever.
From that, I do hand sketches of the areas that I thought would clarify in this particular situation, whether it be a fireplace or a stairwell or the trusses or anything else. We just did a sketch, and I always do everything by hand just because that's the way I was taught. Well, we're dealing with a building that's got concrete walls and concrete floor, therefore inevitably you get noise. So you need a way of mitigating that. The panels we've got on the ceiling here over the top of the false ceiling are actually sound absorption material. And of course the other thing was we've got the minstrel's gallery. And that again gives you an opening which allows sound to sort of rattle around and rather than bounce around in the hall itself. So I mean, the shape of buildings can make a huge difference.
Every window opening, every Gothic arch, every flashing, all had to be generated from scratch.
Peter May designed every stone in a CAD package.
Wow.
And they got sent off to India, and they basically cut them to his precise diagrams.
So the idea was to use the 3D CAD to maximum advantage, which means you design the individual bits, you put them all together to make sure they all fit. You know, it wasn't create a hand drawing, put dimensions on it, have somebody interpret that, build it, and then get it back and find it doesn't go together. You can't sort of afford to have too many prototypes.
The realities of having an imagination in construction is that it's got to fly with council. Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. Getting permission to build anything new is a huge barrier when it comes to innovation.
So I imagine the council was a total breeze with this project.
Nearly everything in the project had to have engineering sign-off from Matt and the other engineers, because there's virtually nothing in here that is written in the New Zealand Building Code.
We recognised quite early on that council had liability in the project, and they were consenting something that would have to be shown to comply with building code, but if it didn't really relate to the building code, well, how do you achieve compliance? So thinking outside the square, if you don't even know what the square is, it means it's all fresh thought, and that's the advantage that Dennis had.
The day the documents went to the council, I think there was 3 A4 boxes of specifications, and there would have been reams and reams of paper. This is before the council took things online.
Innovation requires problem solving, and that's something that this project had a lot of.
A bit frustrated at times, you know, like with just building on this site, you know, because the plan change for the council changed.
So we start off, our planning was our first challenge. Fairly much the castle's built on a knoll, a large, say 10-acre knoll, and it's about 40 metres up raised off the base level. We had a complying issue. We had to be an 8-metre maximum height for this building, and it's not easy to get a 3-level castle within 8 metres. So we excavated into the ground in order to get the height that we needed, but also try to manipulate the council rules a wee bit in order to achieve the desired look we're after with the towers and things like that.
Yeah, but it was fantastic digging because you should see the colours of the soil and everything.
We'd been in the council, we'd had lots and lots of meetings with our engineers, architect and all the building people, and they were happy with what we designed. And they were about to sign it off, and then the other part of the council says, oh, we've just gazetted Plan Zone 6, you're not allowed to build it.
So it meant that it got driven into resource consents and public notification, and I think that battle could have gone on for nearly 8 months to 9 months.
That was when the land court got involved. You got some grumpy neighbours.
Got some grumpy neighbours.
They didn't want the building here.
Disturbed the view?
No, well, they thought it would.
Not in their space.
Not in their space.
As soon as they put it out to the neighbours and people heard that it was a medieval castle, it was something that you didn't really want next door to you because of just the fear of what it could be. But as it is, it's turned out awesome.
And then in the land court, the locals that complained wanted to do one set of modifications, which was the exact opposite what the council wanted us to do.
So you don't need a documentary, you need a soap opera.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's a little bit of, within New Zealand building regulations, a bit of we'll keep doing what we're used to be doing, and anything new is a little bit hard to kind of get past any of these kinds of paperwork barriers?
Absolutely, I really do. You've nailed it there. There's so many other alternative construction methods available and different ways of using the material, but the council process looked at as being quite challenging and to get through. So any alternative solutions can actually just hit a wall and delay things, or delay the project, or can force you into the easiest solution method. And so that would definitely limit some people's adventurous, their thinking towards trying something different. Yes, definitely.
Of course, Dennis and Debbie finally got building. 3 years after they had begun the designs, and then the first Christchurch earthquake hit.
It gave the builders a big fright.
Yes.
They were putting on the beams for the ceiling for the lower level, and they were jumping a wee bit. So
the big walls that hold up the Great Hall, they actually sort of started doing this. So we had to change a bit of a beam up top to make sure that it didn't keep doing that.
Luckily, with no major damages from the quakes, construction could continue. So how did you, once you've got the tilt panels up, how did you insulate the concrete?
Well, on the outside we looked at various things, but in the end we designed what we call a baby I-beam, which is an asymmetrical I-beam with a bit of plywood at the back that is effectively nailed with a bent nail to the concrete. We needed something that went outwards that didn't conduct a lot of heat. What we do is we circulate the air under the solar panel into the rooms. We used to do it in the Great Hall, and that's why there's a whole row of what look like tapestries. They're actually motorised flaps that open out, let the air from the Great Hall up under the solar panels, and then the reason the big frescoes at the top. It's a suspended ceiling that allows the air to percolate around it so you can circulate air. When we had the master's student did their thesis on the building, they calculated they got about 14 kilowatts of heat from under the roof of the Great Hall. We also had this other problem of the easterly rain would get under there. So we've actually modified it now the way it is now. The solar panels which are on the north walls have the capability of circulating air underneath those to get the heat off them, which is very similar to current flows. It's basically the same thing, just the same understanding but relating from electronics to buildings.
Because current flows in a loop.
Yeah, and so does wind, so does air.
Hot air and cold air need to circulate around this building efficiently, one continuous loop. As soon as you open a window, air can get out. The loop is interrupted. So, no more opening windows.
To put the windows in, they're basically put in like a car window. You put them in from the inside and seal them to the stainless steel flashing, and then we glue in stones around the inside to hold it in place. The only problem is if somebody breaks one of these windows, we've got to actually take the stones off. So I've actually got a whole pile of spare ones just in case. But
do you have any enemies, Debbie?
No, I think they'd have a bit of trouble breaking the glass though.
What can this castle teach us about the future of New Zealand housing?
What do you think the people of Aotearoa deserve in their housing?
It's a big question. I mean, we know what they deserve. I think the problem is the history of New Zealand. Basically, we're still using pioneer construction.
Which is?
Little sticks of timber.
The biggest problem we have at the moment, most buildings are built to a budget and they're only interested in the short-term cost of moving in, whereas I'm more interested in the cost of ownership over the life of the building. It's worth it in the long term, otherwise we get the buildings like we've got at the moment all around the country. They're all bloody useless, they're damp. Even a lot of modern houses, and they're designed such that they can put them up as fast as possible, they're as cheap as possible to build so they can sell them for maximum profit. That's life.
Everything now is ridiculously dear, you know, and it's just crazy. Whereas you used to be able to, I forget, somebody told me the formula, it was a percentage of one person's income for the year, and that's how much you should spend on your house. Well, now it's more than that by a long shot, so nobody can afford it.
When Debbie and we were over in Saudi Arabia somewhere, you know, you'd have to stop over for a couple of days, and they took us out to the desert and showed us some of these old houses. And the same with in Italy. And the whole idea was they actually self-convected and self-cooled. They were designed with a sort of chimney up the middle, and they'd suck the air in and circulate the air. So, you know, they knew all about this thing, you know, 5,000 years ago. But in the last 100 years, we've forgotten everything. You know, nearly all the houses, when they're first building houses in New Zealand, were all facing the same way as houses in England, which was the wrong way. And then the architects said, oh, we love the Mediterranean styles with no eaves and straight walls and flat roofs, and not suitable for New Zealand, but, you know, architects love them.
Yes, I think that the problem in our market here is that it's fashion driven.
Yes.
Having driven here today, I noticed there were 2 black houses built down the road.
I think sometimes we've gone sort of backwards, like all the black houses now.
Oh, rubbish. I remember
they just cause the house to heat.
Yeah, well I do challenge people because Kiwis, certainly in Canterbury, we're a bit conservative. You know, after the earthquake we had a whole new city to build, and it's quite nice to have put in a little bit of that personality.
After the earthquakes, people became conservative. Architecture became a lot more conservative. It was focused on engineering and strength and robustness. People were exposing structure so that they'd see the braces, because that actually gave people security. They felt they were in a strong building because they could see how it worked. And slowly over time, people forget. They become more focused on what was important to them. The key to a successful project is not the budget, and it's not even the project. It's the people that are invested into it. and it's about understanding and working as a group. And to pioneer something new is not one person's idea that necessarily makes it a success, it's the group. And on this project we've had a fantastic group to work together, and we're all friends to this day, 10 years after the project's completed, and we've all worked on numerous projects together since because of the team and the enjoyment. And I guess that's how you generate change in the world, is that bringing groups of people together, considering everyone's ideas, and some of the playfulness that Dennis has to allow people to explore opportunities is what people can learn from. Maybe Dennis had a budget that other people don't, but the concept of what we did and how we did it is something that we certainly take to other projects, and it's something that we do in this company, which makes life fun. That's why we have buildings, to give them something they're proud of, that they enjoy living in, that they can be healthy. That's a successful building.
Hi Debbie, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Me too. We're so excited. We're hoping to get a tour.
Sure.
Thank you.
Come on in.
I think something magic's about to happen.
Come on into the Great Hall.
Wow. I think the first thing I'm drawn to in terms of the interior is this giant tapestry.
Isn't it fantastic? We got that when we were over in Europe, in Budapest. Knights leaving, I think, for a battle or something. Concrete in concrete is really hard, so you need stuff that's going to absorb it, the furniture and stuff, and the acoustic tiles in the ceiling. Otherwise it sounds very echoey.
Yeah. So in the Great Hall, it looks like we've just stepped out of medieval times, but in here you've got the lazy boy recliner chair, the TV.
Yeah.
What would you call this room?
Just our everyday living room, just two of us in here. So, this lovely cask I got for winning a ladies' race, and they gave me a hip flask. And Dennis's, his from when they sold Inatel, and the jandals, because he's always wearing jandals. We're in the dining room. Yeah, these are the acoustic panels, but we didn't want to be too boring, so we've gone with dragons and Michelin men in amongst the nor'west arch clouds.
Oh, they're hidden in the clouds.
Yeah.
What's a Michelin man?
The tyre ad, Michelin tyres. The big, white, fat, dumpy man.
Yeah, I do.
Because we were involved in an ad for that once.
Really? What was the ad?
Tyres. But we used one of our cars going down Central Otago.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So this is the kitchen. So most of it's zoned areas, because I was sort of thinking of, big parties and big family groups and stuff. And the island is a lower height, so you can roll out pastries. Master bedroom. 4-poster says it all, doesn't it?
The 4-poster says it all.
Various guys around Christchurch, so it's really great.
Oh my gosh, no nails?
No, they're all plugs of wood, and we wanted all the native birds that we like, and the family crest that we made up. So. The kia, and the tui, and the kakapo, and the tuatara, and then, what are the words? Inspire, endeavours and things like that, so motivational.
Yeah, right by the head of your bed so you feel extra perky the next day. So inspired.
That's right.
And now we end looking over the Great Hall.
Whole lot of swords. Dennis only wanted one, but you had to buy 100. And so I thought, how can we use them? Balustrade. So they're useful, so we can defend ourselves from intruders. Cool, hey?
That was great.
I think to know Dennis and Debbie is to know this castle. It's resourceful, playful, fun,
and a little bit mad. It's good design and good on a winter's morning. This is a good story, full of swords and gargoyles. It's a good team of people who had access to resources and could create something incredibly unique. It was their commitment and enthusiasm to the project that became the Knights' courage in the face of various dramas, earthquakes, council, grumpy neighbours. And over time, that house became a home. And now it's time that the sun sets on our quest to Chapman Castle.
Hi Gabby, I formally knight you, Dame Gabby, for services to the realm. Rise up, Dame Gabby.
Al, Big Al, he was fantastic in the dealings through integrating sub-trades, integrating the builder, coordinating. He helped a lot with just coordinating team and just checking in and just make sure everyone was on track. Great personality to be around, brought a really good energy to the team as well. Yeah, so no, he was actually very instrumental in a lot of the early planning and that sort of thing in the castle.